Lou.
Hi, Jennifer, Tara, Sierra, Dustin, how are you?
Hello.
Hi. All
Hello.
righty. Hi, Sierra. All right. Good to see you guys. We're going to get going here in a minute or two. We did have over 20 people sign up, so I want to give it just a second to see if a couple other pop in. Put for me in the chat where you guys are located so I know where you all are. Tara, LA. Awesome. What about the rest of you? Where are you located? Hi, Sierra, Washington, D.C. Awesome. Very cool. We have both coasts already, end to end. Amazing. Well, let's get started, and the rest that show up can catch up. My name is Kayla, and I am a certified career coach and a senior project manager at a global law firm. And I am so excited that you guys are here and that you're taking a step towards ownership over your job search. That is such a big step. The next thing I want you guys to do is in the chat to put what is your biggest frustration when it comes to building a resume that gets you interviews. Pop that in the chat for me. And this could be anything from formatting to hearing crickets to really anything. I want to know what is going on for you guys so that I can speak to it. Proper format and what to include and not to include. Yep, Tara, you're in good company. Those are things that not only are challenging to know, but you hear a lot of conflicting information on. Sierra, biggest frustration would be formatting or my experience not being tailored to fit the job description. Yep, got it. Okay. Wait to see if we get any more. Dustin, anything from you? The formatting is a big one. We're going to get into that today and next week as well. What is it about the formatting? Is it not knowing what the right format is, or is it that you have to reformat it every time, or you don't know what will get through the applicant tracking system? What is it about the formatting that is so challenging? And you guys can unmute as well. Got David and Jennifer. Hey, David. Hey, Jen.
Hi.
How are you two? Thanks for
Good.
joining us. David, you're not used to this, but I muted you upon entry, so you're muted. We're putting in the chat two things. One, where we're from, and two, your biggest frustration with when it comes to crafting a resume that gets you interviews. We've had two people say formatting so far, and then what to include or not to include, and also having your experience being tailored to fit the job description. think I'm drawing a bit of a connection between what to include and not to include, kind of on the same line with tailoring it. Yeah. Yep, that's a big one. Recruiters are sometimes themselves contradictory, and in good faith, they'll come back and say, this is what you should or shouldn't have. But it can get really confusing when you have different recruiters telling you different things. Jen from Philadelphia, welcome. Constantly updating without knowing if it's working, right? Well, I'll try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. And you have like 20 different things that you've tried, but which one is moving the needle? Does that sound right, Jen? Okay. Too many resume styles from Tara. How to get through the ATS and AI platforms. Yes, AI platforms are getting there, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here as well. And I can certainly speak to applicant tracking systems, tailoring the resume to the job. Thank you, Dustin. Okay, great. These are helpful, guys. Thank you. All right, so we are going to get right into it here. Drop for me in the chat as I read these out. David echoing what everyone else is saying. Yes. I put a few here as well. So what this workshop is for, and I want you guys to tell me which one you relate to as I go down the list. So the first one is that you have an itch for more. You're here and you want to move into project management because you have an itch for more. You're ready for change, but you don't know how to make that leap. Kind of like what Jen said is, I don't know what's working versus what is not working. Number two, when you apply, you hear crickets or you get ghosted. You know deep in your bones that you are capable. You are a good project manager. You have the capacity to be a great project manager, but you can't convince recruiters and hiring managers of the same thing. Can't convince them of your value. You can't get them to give you the time of day. Crickets. Maybe one of the problems that you're experiencing is a lack of formal project management experience. And because of that, self-doubt and imposter syndrome keep you from applying, or maybe keep you playing small, applying to roles that are maybe actually you're overqualified for, even though you do really know that you have transferable experience. Number four, you're worried about the market. You're hearing how people more qualified than you feel like you might be, people who have been project managers for 10 years, and they've had the formal title of project manager, and they are struggling, and you don't feel competitive because of that. Because if these people with 10 years of experience are having such a hard time, how can I even compete? And then the fifth one here, you are simply burnt out. You're underpaid at your current job. You are undervalued, especially for the amount of hours that you're putting in, and it could even be affecting your mental health. So put in the chat for me 1 through 5 what you resonate with. Or worried about the market. Yep, it's a big one. How about the rest of you? All of them, but definitely 3. Okay. All of them unemployed. Yep, that application loop. I'm imagining your days are feeling a little bit like Groundhog's Day, Tara, where it's just kind of the same thing over and over.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Worried there are more qualified people and they are having difficulty getting hired. Yes, that is number 4, right, Jennifer? Absolutely. And you feel free as well, Sierra number 4, if there's something on this list that I did not hit, you can unmute and tell me what's going on for you. Did I hit them all? Jennifer and David have worked with me. They know that I will sit here and let the awkward silence hang until someone says something. David's laughing. Okay. All right. I won't let it stay too much longer. Alrighty, let's move on. Okay. Why are we here? Why are we even bothering with learning how to build a good resume? Why is it important? This is not just about building a resume or landing interviews. It's about something much larger than that. It is about becoming the obvious choice. Recruiters are drowning in candidates. I'm sure you guys have seen it to where you are applying for something or a job goes live and 30 minutes later, there's 100 plus applicants already on LinkedIn. It says 100 plus, 30 minutes, maybe even faster. Recruiters are drowning. They are overwhelmed. And we want to position you as the lifesaver. You come in, you are the clear choice because all of your experience lines up, it speaks to what they're looking for. You don't have to question it. And they look at you and they're like, oh, there's a light. Thank goodness. I don't have to spend time going through these 200 other resumes. This is the one. This is my lifesaver. I am going to push them through the process because they have made life easy for me. That is what we are trying to do here. In addition, it doesn't matter if you're applying or getting referred, no matter what, every single recruiter is going to ask you, do you have a resume? This is, ground zero. This is what we build off of is this resume. So if you don't have that, you're not even going to get considered. Even if you get referred, you need a resume and you need a strong one that speaks directly to the job that you got referred for. So I know you're probably getting a lot of different information from different sources. Some of you have confirmed that in the chat. You're getting different conflicting information about how to craft a compelling resume. So we have 2 days. We have today and we have next Sunday. After the 2 days that we're going to spend together, you're no longer going to have to debate the right way to do a resume that's actually going to get you interviews and opportunities to the roles that you actually care about. All right. We're going to position you as the lifesaver. All right. How do I know this works? I know this works because I did it. In 2016, am I sharing my screen? I'm not sharing my screen, right? Okay, let me share my screen. There we go. This is very important that you guys can see what I'm sharing. So can you all see it? Okay, great. I see thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, I know this works because I did it. 2016, I was a cake decorator. I was burnt out, underpaid, undervalued, working 12-hour days. And, I built beautiful things, but I was not being treated well and I had no career trajectory. So I was working these insane hours, and one day after a 12-hour shift, my manager called me back to frost some cupcakes, right? Like life or death cupcakes. So I went back, but I was very, very frustrated, and I asked my manager if we could have a conversation. And all I asked for in this conversation was to be treated well, to be treated as someone with a life who didn't want to work 12 hours a day. And my manager's response was, too bad, you built your bed, now lie in it or quit. And I quit on the spot because that was not an acceptable answer for me. And I didn't have a backup plan. All right. This was a bit of an emotional knee jerk response to just quit. But I wound up deciding I wanted to move into corporate. I knew I wanted to move into corporate because ironically enough, this artistic job was crushing my soul. So I moved into corporate and landed as a receptionist at a law firm. Just happenstance, right? And I worked my way up from there. I went from that to an accounting clerk to accounting lead, and then eventually assistant and sometimes acting office manager when our office manager was out for an extended amount of time. So I worked my way up, and at one point, my manager told me, "You'd be a good project manager." And I was like, "What? What is this? What do you mean? I don't know what a project manager is." So I looked into it, and sure enough, I was like, "You know what? Yeah, this seems to align with what I want and the type of person I am." Ooh, but does it align with my skills, right? Or my past experience? And that was really scary for me. But I started to apply and I heard crickets. I got a couple interviews, but zero callbacks after those interviews because I wasn't moving the needle. All right, this went on for about 6 months. And finally, I got fed up. I was over it. Like, I did not want to be stuck in the loop that Tara is saying that she is stuck in, where just you keep it's Groundhog's Day over and over again. You apply, you get that rejection email, there's no interface. It's just really frustrating. So, in addition to getting my PMP, I hired a resume writer. And she helped me to put my past experience in a way that shocked even me. When I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, I do have this experience. Even my cake decorating experience, she took it and she put it into the right language for the types of roles that I was looking at. And that gave me the confidence to speak to my experience in a way that was directly applicable to the roles that I was applying for. And it worked. I got interviews and I eventually ended up landing my first project management interview. That resume was the catalyst for it, and my ability to see my experience and to articulate it in a way that was directly applicable to that PM world. That's what really moved the needle for me. So let's remember that when I landed my first project manager job, I had never had a project manager title, ever. I did not have the formal title. In fact, I went through this very complicated leap, right? I wasn't even in the corporate world yet. So from cake decorator to project manager, I didn't think that I had transferable experience because what it didn't make sense to me, right? Going from this non-corporate world into corporate. But it was only when my resume writer asked me the right questions that I was able to connect the dots. It's really, really hard to see the label when you're inside the jar. When you're in it every single day and you're doing it, it is really hard to see what you're actually doing and to label it appropriately. And that is why it is so important to have a mentor and someone who believes in you because it's hard to see it in yourself. This resume writer saw it for me and she laid it out for me. She was my biggest cheerleader and she truly believed in me. And that was huge. And this is partially, I mean, this is a big reason as to why I do what I do today, why I got certified as a career coach, why I got certified as a resume writer, because I want to help people make the same mindful transition that I made because it changed my life. And I want to do that for people too. So I learned how to do what she was doing, not only for myself, but for all of you sitting in this room as well. I had also never run an official project before when I moved into project management, much less one that followed a framework like waterfall or Scrum or Kanban. And even now, I will tell you, I don't follow any formal project management framework. I do what I need to do to get the project done, right? Even as a senior PM, I'm not following, oh, this is Agile, this is Kanban, this is, this and that. It's just making sure the team gets things done. The framework is not what defines success. Results are what defines success. I know how to lead teams to accomplish things, and that is what makes me a great project manager. And when you can show that, when you can show your results in a way that show impact, the framework is immaterial. So, as a result of learning how to tell my story and how to talk about my experience in an impactful way, my confidence skyrocketed. Recruiters started to contact me, and in the end, my salary quadrupled. So, this is Valerie. Valerie came to me very frustrated because she knew that she had the right skills and experience for the jobs that she wanted, but she was getting overlooked again and again, and she was getting frustrated because she's a very high functioning, very capable person, and that was really sitting with her, and it was hitting her very hard. I make sure I'm not missing anybody in the waiting room. I don't think I am. All right, I think everybody's in. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so that was hitting her very hard and she was very frustrated. She was basically going through all the things that I had gone through in the past and what caused me to go to a resume writer, knowing she has the experience and just can't get the time of day. So Valerie, at first, she was actually really hesitant about whether or not this was going to work for her. She was like, I'm not really sure about this process. But I took her through it and I asked her the right questions to extract her experience and mapped what she had done to exactly what recruiters and hiring managers were looking for. And as a result, she went from getting a 10 to 20% response rate to a 100% response rate. She actually ended up getting two offers. She picked one and then after that got another offer. So this really moved the needle for Valerie, and now she's in a position that she's extremely happy with. And this is what makes me happy, is that I can help my clients learn what took me almost a decade to learn, but they all learn it in weeks or in months and still get impactful results. So it is important that we start with helping you all understand what you're doing wrong so that you can save time and you don't keep doing these things over and over again. So we're going to start here with these common mistakes. And then we are going to go a little bit into the high level process, and we'll get even more into that in day 2. So mistake number 1, not having a niche. You're taking the kitchen sink approach. You're applying to any and every project management job under the sun. It doesn't matter if it's SaaS implementation or if it's healthcare, regardless of what it is, you are applying. It doesn't matter what industry and it doesn't matter what they're looking for. If you see project manager, you're like, yep, I'm going to apply to that. And you're doing this because you think that all project management jobs are the same and that all that project managers do is manage timelines, take notes, and calendar meetings, hold people accountable for tasks. And you don't understand the nuances of project management and why it's such an important organizational function. And on top of it, you're probably worried that you're going to decrease your chances of getting a job if you don't apply to all of them. And then what you're really doing is you're relying on quantity over quality. You think it's about volume rather than fit. So you spray and pray, thinking that, the right one will come along and eventually it's going to fit. It's just going to work out for you. So when you take this approach, it takes a lot of effort, right? It's a lot of effort to apply for jobs because when you do it this way, you basically have to completely rebuild your resume from scratch every single time. Or you're using the same resume and you're applying to 20 jobs a week, but you're hearing nothing because you're not rebuilding your resume. So there's these two ends of this spectrum. And what is happening is that recruiters have no idea what you want. You're applying to everything using the same resume, or just like really tailoring it, but not changing all the right aspects that you really need to be changing. And recruiters look at it and they say, what do you want? I don't know what you want. It took me more than 7 seconds and I'm moving on. Like, I don't have the brain capacity to do this for them. They just move on. So the other thing is that if you don't know what you want, a recruiter doesn't know either. And here's what I mean by this. If you don't know exactly what kind of project manager you want to be and exactly what problems you solve, they don't know either. So you have to be very clear on what your niche is, what your industry is. These can be two different things. You can either pick an industry or you can pick a niche or somewhere like in there, but it does need to be specific. They're not this, like, not all project management jobs are created equally. And I would encourage you guys to go look at, let's say, a SaaS implementation PM job versus, for example, I'm a legal project manager. If you look at a legal project management job, it is very, very different from what a SaaS implementation project manager will do. So if you're applying to all of these different jobs, you're just not going to get traction. You're not going anywhere. Companies hire a specific person to solve a specific problem. Leading projects is not a problem. That's the solution. And you need to show them how you are part of solving that problem, how you go about fixing it. I've heard other people call this the bleeding neck problem, the problem that is so horrific for these companies. They're bleeding from their neck, and you have to solve that. You have to position yourself as the one that can stop the bleeding. So the best way that I can explain this is me. I role model this in what I do. So most of you here, you're here because you want to land a project management role. And that is exactly what I help with as a career coach and nothing else. I don't help people who want to become engineers. I don't help people who want to become teachers. I am not just a pivot coach. I am a project management pivot coach. And that's why you're sitting in front of me. I am very focused in explaining what specific problem I solve as a career coach. And this is why you're here. This is why you're in front of me, because I solve the problem that you all have. Just how do I transition into project management? You want to learn from me rather than another coach that might not be as specialized. So that's the power, that is the impact of being very clear and picking a niche and an area to focus on. Okay. So this is why, as part of this session, I asked you all to pick an ideal job. Did you all do that? Jen shaking her head,
Yes.
David, thumbs up, Anna head, yes. Sierra gave me a yes. Awesome. Tara, yes. Great. Sorry, Tara, you no to something earlier, and I'm actually not sure what you said no to.
I don't remember either.
Okay. I will say that it is very hard for me to like look at my screen and the chat and you all. So if I miss you guys at any point, please unmute and be like, Kayla, you missed a thing. We're gonna do questions at the end, just so you know. But if I do that again, please let me know. Michael, yes, you picked a ideal job. That's awesome. Okay, so I at least got 4 of you to say yes. I believe that is a quorum. Okay, so I call this your North Star. So what this does is it puts the prerequisites in place so that you're successful in the remainder of this workshop and in the rest of your job search. So if you've made a choice, picked a target, it's going to be way easier for you to follow the rest of this workshop today and next Sunday. You're not going to be able to follow it very well if you're all over the place and you don't know what your target is, what your North Star is. If you're not sure what your North Star is, like other than project management, sure, you all know project management, but if you're not sure beyond that, that is out of scope of what this workshop is. I have a whole end-to-end program that will help you all do that, but that's out of scope for this. But if you didn't come prepared with that ideal job, or you're thinking like, oh crap, like this is just, some random project management job that I picked, that's okay, because you're still going to learn the process that you can reproduce later after you have picked that ideal job. So, how many people here came with an ideal job that you're like, yeah, this is in a niche that I'm confident in and I know that I want to spend time here? David, why is that, David?
I mean, we've talked about this already, but I, it was a struggle sort of to find that perfect job. And I think I more recently, because of our work together, have figured that out. And it's been a process and it continues to be a process. And, but yeah, I think just helping me focus that um, has helped me figure out what I really want. Does that make
Awesome.
sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. And this can be a process, right? And this is why we have the full end-to-end program, because some people need some help with that process. It can be very, very overwhelming and very daunting and very emotional, honestly. It can take a lot, particularly for people who are going through big industry pivots. I have to say, like a little part of me, my heart was kind of broken when I wasn't a cake decorator anymore. I went to culinary school. I went very concertedly to be a cake decorator. And then when I realized it was not fulfilling and what I wanted to do, that was hard. That was an emotional journey. I remember crying and saying, I spent all this money going on to culinary school and now like, now what? So it's hard. I understand. Jennifer, your hand is up.
So I know you talked about working with David and you've worked with me and I'm really on board. The niche I'm going for is education technology, edutech. But even currently right now, as we're going through the resumes and where I'm trying to even hone it more is there are, like you were talking about, SaaS implementations, like, can I do that? But then there's onboarding jobs. But then I see ones that say operational. So it's in this field, but I find that I'm even now
Mm,
needing to narrow even further to really draw. Some of them are just like, oh, are you an agilist? It's like, well, yeah, I could kind of do that. But I think what's even further than North Star is that idea of implementation, onboarding. So that's where I'm at.
that's a great insight, Jennifer. I'm really glad you brought that up because yes, we decided for you, you decided that education technology made sense. And you're finding out that even within that, for project management specifically, there is more niching down that can be done. And operations is not going to be the same as implementation. There are different skill sets and there are very different problems that those things solve. I'm glad you brought that up and we can talk about that more in our work together. Other people here who are like, oh, I picked something, but it might not be exactly what I'm wanting. This is just something I ripped off LinkedIn because it's a project management position. Yeah, Jen.
Yeah, so I'm pivoting from nonprofit to for-profit. So I've got a couple that I've gotten really excited about, but part of the challenge is a lot of the project manager jobs say, you know, deliver, tracking deliverables and, end-to-end, implementation or through, handout off or what they say kind of, and I'm like, yeah, I do all those things. So I'm having gone through a process of like trying to figure out what industry and what part of what industry, I'm still finding the language is so similar that I'm like, I can't see my niche, like it all looks like, sure. So I try to reach out and, maybe talk to somebody in that role, but that can be challenging. And, sometimes you get crickets on that score. So like, that's part of my struggle. Like I'm seeing things that I like. I'm just not sure how different it is or, how niche it is. Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense? Sorry, rambling.
No, it makes perfect sense. There's kind of this like contradictory thing where it's like they all look the same, but they're not the same. Like to come in here and hear me say these are all very different and require different things, but then to look at job descriptions and be like, but wait, this just says to like hit the deliverables, track the timelines, hold people accountable, right? Like that, it's a very frustrating disconnect because what I am telling you is something that people who have not been in project management don't understand. And that's probably what you're seeing a symptom of is these hiring managers are like, I need a project manager. I just got to get the things done. That's all I need. Some generic thing of what a project manager does. And what your job is to read between the lines and figure out what are the actual problems? Why are they hiring for this? So let's take SaaS implementation, for example. That one's relatively simple because of what it is. Like a SaaS implementation project manager helps to make sure that the software gets implemented for the customer. That's what they do. So the problem is there are customers that need to integrate this software, and now they need someone to fill that gap. Even though to fill that gap, you are managing teams, making sure deliverables are delivered on time, that the quality is high. It's all the same way of getting it done, but the problem is different. And in next week, I'm going to share with you guys of like this 4-quadrant framework that I've developed to kind of help you figure out where you might fit and to then kind of like go from there to figure out where you fit. And Jen, I would encourage you to just look more deeply into these different ones that you're seeing. First of all, look at your background, nonprofit. Okay, that makes sense. So I'm initially thinking somewhere in government, which is not the best place to be right now. But in something that is probably a little more structured, a little more regulatory and policy related, and to look at jobs in those areas and to use AI to ask them what types of problems do these project managers solve? What are the companies needing of these people beyond tasks, timelines, delegation, things like that? Does that help?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because yeah, it definitely helps. I'm thinking about sort of what I love about what I do now and trying to sort of reverse engineer that into something industry. Like, I just feel like it's a whole other language that I'm not speaking.
Yeah, because we don't want to lie to recruiters, right? We want to take what you enjoy and what you do actually have some experience in and just draw the connection for you and for them to see that. So that's what we're kind of working on here. And you're definitely on the right track that working backwards, but it can be very overwhelming when you're not familiar with the project management world. There's like this barrier of the words, the language that they use, right? The jargon that you have to get over to figure out, does this even make sense for me? Yeah. Anyone else comments on this and finding your North Star? let us move on. All right, mistake number 2, keyword stuffing. What do I mean by keyword stuffing? You're looking at job description after job description, and you're just randomly pulling out keywords that align with what you think the company is looking for. And Jen, I'm going to say that this probably is a little bit of like that jargon that you're seeing, right? Like, all right, let me I think this makes sense. I'm going to put this here and put that there and kind of make fit these jigsaw puzzles, like jam them into place. And I've actually seen project management resumes that unfortunately don't use some of the language correctly. And that's like a glaring red flag to be like, actually, they don't know what they're talking about. If you're keyword stuffing, that's kind of what's happening. So it's like taking every random piece of clothing in your closet and tossing it into your suitcase when you're getting ready to go on a Hawaiian vacation. Okay, you don't need to pack a winter coat and boots and that one random kimono you bought on a trip to Japan to go on a Hawaiian vacation. You're wasting, and what this could also look like is wasting money on tools like Job Scanner. Anyone? Job Scanner? I see Jen. Like, I think you get some free ones, but after a time, it costs. I remember using this in 2020 when I was trying to break into project management, not knowing, not understanding that this was not going to move the needle for me. But you're using it because you hope it's going to make you look more in alignment with what a good project manager does. So or this is a great one. This is a TikTok legend at this point. You're taking entire job postings, copying and pasting it into the margins of your resume and putting it in white font so that you can get through the tracking system. Has anyone heard this? Yeah. Yes.
I read about that. I thought it was insane.
I know. Yes. And
But-
I will tell you that these systems are kind of they're starting to get to this point where they're leveraging AI. And that used to be a myth. Like that was totally a myth that it was these bots that were scanning your resume and automatically kicking them out. In 2025, we are starting to get there. But I will tell you that this could move the needle, but it's not going to move the needle the way you want it to. Trying to beat the bots like this and showing that you have the right experience without understanding what showing the right experience really means. You think you're putting the right words in there and that's going to convince a recruiter or a hiring manager that you have what it takes. And like, sure, you can put the keywords in and AI might score your resume higher, but I can promise you, in the end, a human being is going to look at your resume. That's going to end up in front of the eyeballs of a recruiter. And if you're keyword stuffing and BSing your way through it, they're going to know and they're going to pass. And it's going to look even worse because you did something like kind of shady to try to get through the AI system, right? And now you've got this like, it really doesn't look good for you. It will get seen by a human being. And if you're doing that like white font pasting thing, like that looks terrible. And furthermore, like let's say you're just keyword stuffing, you're like, all right, I'm not going to do that whole, like, I'm not going to trick the bots, but I'm going to keyword stuff. It's not going to make sense when a recruiter looks at it. And like I told you guys, I have seen resumes where these words are not being used correctly because they're keyword stuffing. Or let's say this does work and you get into an interview. Are you going to be able to speak to your experience in that interview? If you're just like taking these words and stuffing them in there or tricking the system, like, how is it going to feel when you land in an interview and you cannot connect the dots between your experience and what you've done and what they're looking for. Now you've wasted a lot of your time and energy on this process that is not going to go anywhere, and you get another rejection and you just end up feeling even worse than you did to begin with, because hey, you got something, but then they turned you down. So that is the danger of keyword stuffing. Rather than packing your entire closet for this Hawaiian vacation, I want you guys to pick only what you need and what is in alignment with what the trip calls for. All right, so that picture on the right, you're going to need some sunglasses and a hat, and look at how like beautifully organized that is. It's the same with your resume. Organize it nicely, use only the things that you need exactly for that job, and that is going to move the needle for you. Only what you need, no more, no less. All right. This is our last mistake before we move into kind of the process. Mistake number 3, you're making recruiters work way too hard. I told you recruiters are drowning, and they are. And that 7-second thing, it's true. They really spend 7 seconds looking at your resume, and they are looking fast to be like, do they have the years of experience? Do they have the titles? No, yes, pass. Like that is what's happening. So here's part of what that can look like. This is bullet point overload. This is not like, yeah, there's good information in here, like increasing, which lender rate increases. That's a law firm specific thing. That law firms use to bring in resume, but like it's hidden. It's so hidden in there. It's hard to see. All right, now we've got this 7%, but even me looking at it, like I have to kind of look at it very closely to figure out, does this even make sense? Like what is this person talking about? We have some day-to-day tasks mixed in there with the impact that they had and achievements, and it's just really exhausting. This is exhausting work for a recruiter, and they're going to pass instantly because they cannot tell what it is that you are trying to communicate to them. This is an even more impactful version, an impactful example of making recruiters work way too hard. IT project manager. Okay, great. Oop. Results-oriented network engineer. Wait, project manager? Network engineer? Wait, how much experience do you have? It doesn't say. I can't actually see how many years of experience this person has. Okay, so that's just like all of a sudden, that's almost an immediate disqualifier there. Like these two things don't make sense. Oh wait, but were they an agile project manager? Scrum master? Wait, like which one of these? Where does this person sit? These are different. All of these things that this person has on here are very different, and there's no story behind this. I know this person's story because I worked with this person, and this was their original resume, which didn't make any sense, and we worked to make a story out of it. Yes, someone who used to be a network engineer is going to be a great IT project manager, but we need to connect the dots. We need to show the story because the recruiter doesn't want to waste their time they're not going to do it for you. They don't have the time. They don't have the energy. They're going to move on to that lifesaver candidate that instantly shows them, this is what I do. This is the story. This is how long I've been doing it. Some other things in here that are really confusing for a recruiter are these certifications that aren't relevant. PMP, relevant. Absolutely. Certified Scrum Master, absolutely relevant. Secret clearance? Does that really matter? CompTIA, Network Plus, like, okay, cool. This is not relevant to project management. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't fit with the story. This person is certification stuffing because of a lack of confidence. That's where that comes from, is let me just throw every certification I have in there to make it seem like I am qualified, but it actually does the exact opposite because it's very confusing. Bullet point overload, again, like these are actually, they're decent bullet points in explaining the day to day. So that is good, but it's too many bullet points and I see zero impact in here. There are no numbers. There's nothing in here as far as the types of projects that they led or projects that they completed or led for the company. And then these months here, these must be numbers. If they are not numbers, the recruiter has to work too hard. So they don't want to sit there and figure out, oh, that's an 8, that's a 12. They're trying to really quickly go through and figure out, you know, are there any gaps? Unfortunately, that is part of what they are looking for. Does this make sense? Are there overlaps? Like, just what is this person's timeline of his, are they a job hopper? Have they moved tons of different times? And there could be a very good reason for that. I'm not saying job hopping is bad. I am telling you the recruiters are looking for that and they want to see it quickly and easily. Okay. This might look very familiar to one of you here. This is a great resume. This is very well laid out. This is showing very clearly the achievements and a key project, very clearly demonstrating impact. This is super easy for a recruiter to look at and understand what this person is doing and why they are impactful, exactly how they are impactful. This is what a good experience section under a job looks like. I would encourage you to think of your resume like a landing page. Have you ever landed on a landing page for a website and it's just absolute garbage? Like the letters, like the words overlap each other and like the pictures don't load and you're like out of there really fast, right? Because it's not user friendly. It's really hard to use. You want to use something that looks nice and it's easy to navigate and has a good user experience for anyone here who might be in the agile IT world, user interface world. That is what you want for them. You don't want them to have their eyeballs crossing because it's a difficult interface. You want a nice, clean interface for them. Okay, so those are the mistakes. We're going to get to the high level process for how to put together a compelling resume that makes that phone ring in just a minute. But first, I wanted to take a second to tell you guys about a fully interactive resume workshop that I have coming up on October 19th at this exact same time. All right, so we have today and we have next week. And the following Sunday, there is a fully interactive workshop with me. And in this workshop, you're going to get 100% hands-on support in crafting your stories in a way that will be in alignment with the roles you're going after. It's going to boost your confidence in interviews because you'll know exactly how those stories position you as the best person for the job, as the lifesaver. And you'll get an exclusive resume template that is optimized for recruiter eyeballs and the way that they track so that it's a nice interface for them. This is a paid workshop and seats are limited, and we'll talk more about the logistics behind that later. For those of you who are currently working with me, you can attend this if you want, and you get this information with me one-on-one. In our work together. You're welcome to attend for free. It's like part of your work with me. And you can always just reach out to me to get the same information and the same help. Okay. We're almost an hour in. We're a little more than halfway. So I think I'm going to get you guys out early today. That'll be great for you guys. Okay. So you know the mistakes you're making. Now we're going to go over the high level steps to putting together a compelling resume so that you guys don't have to spend almost a decade becoming a senior project manager and learning this stuff for yourself like I did. I want to make this go much faster for you all. So after working with my clients, I have come up with a very simple framework. And you need to stay for this part, like don't go anywhere for this part of the workshop today because you're going to need this information going into next week. And if you do decide to come to the paid interactive resume workshop, I want you guys to get your money's worth. All right. I don't want to have to explain this again. I don't want to waste your valuable time in explaining it again to you guys because we're going to need that time in the workshop. We're going to need to use it wisely so that you can come out with the most bang for your buck. So let's stay here for this. 3 high-level steps. Define your North Star. We've already talked about that, and we will talk about it a little bit more next week. Lay out what you already have. This is figuring out like your experience. This is brain dumping your experience. We're going to talk about this all in much more detail. And then the third step is to chart the route to your dream role. And I have this whole analogy worked out about like navigating a ship. So bear with me. Okay, number 1, define your North Star. All right. When you don't come up with a North Star, like what we've been talking about, your ideal role within a specific niche, you're going to be aimless and you might end up in the right location, right? You need that North Star. What do sailors use the North Star for? To navigate. Same thing for you. You need that to navigate your transition or you might end up in the wrong place. You might end up in a job that you don't like and that doesn't speak to your strengths because you went the wrong way. And if you don't do this, you're not going to know how to speak the language that recruiters and hiring managers are looking for that specific type of job. Your brand and your story are not going to line up with where you truly want to go. And you won't know what level of detail to include in your resume or what to say if you end up in an interview. And like I said, you might risk ending up in a role that doesn't excite you or applying for a role that doesn't excite you. And that will show up in your interview. Like that lack of enthusiasm and lack of energy absolutely will show up and you're just going to end up sabotaging yourself. When you are clear and when you pick and define your North Star, you get very focused on where you want to go and you save a ton of time as a result because you're not spending hours aimlessly applying to 20 or more roles per week. How many of you here are applying to more than 10 roles a week?
Almost that in a day.
Ooh, okay, Tara. All right, that's good to know. All right, let's change that for you. Yeah, David, I know you're not, and I know why you're not. And Jennifer, same for you. You shouldn't be, right? Anybody else here more than 10 per week? Nope. Sierra says no. Okay, good. Why is that, Sierra? Is it because you're so clear that you're not seeing enough roles? Is it that you don't have the time? Like, help me understand where you are in this part of the journey. And no judgment. I'm just really trying to understand.
For me personally, I'm currently employed and have a part-time job. I'm also in school, so like I'm nervous to apply and then get that call back because I don't think that I'm in a place where I can work and do studies at the same time.
Okay.
And I'm also nervous about applying to jobs because of my lack of experience.
Okay. All right. That's all so real. And it sounds to me like you have this little underlying part of you that's like, I need a job.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to get paid, right? I'm at this part, but there's a couple things holding you back. First of all, you don't have enough time. So this is really going to help you because I don't want you spending that much time applying to jobs. I want you to pick the jobs that make sense to you and do 1 or 2 a week. And that is going to save you a lot of time.
Mhm.
Now, it sounds too like you have a little bit of this imposter syndrome going on where you're like, I don't know. I don't know if I have the experience or if I could even do the job if I got hired. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So step 2 in this is really going to help you because this is where you're going to see how your experience tracks to what you're trying to do. And this is like the biggest gap and one of the hardest parts for the people that I end up working with because it's very common to think it's very interesting because a lot of people come to me saying, I know I'd be a great project manager. And then we kind of get into it and this imposter syndrome kicks in. They're like, oh, but I don't know if I've been doing this.
Mhm.
And drawing those lines between what you have been doing and what they're looking for is very powerful. And seeing like, oh, yes, I have been doing this and I do know what I'm doing. And you get a big confidence boost from that. And that's what happened to me when my resume writer put my experience out there for me.
Right.
Dustin, how many are you applying to a week?
Did you say Jessica?
Oh, I said Dustin, but Jessica, go for it.
Sorry. So my situation, I know we've talked a little bit on chatting. My situation is I'm at the company I want to be at. Like, I love the company I'm at. It's a really huge organization. And so I kind of just want to apply for positions at my company that I'm already.
So that's kind of unique to my situation. And I also am like kind of picky with who I want to work with at my company. So I think I've been being really specific about when I want to apply for roles. And I also am having troubles connecting some of the dots, I think, as well. Because I've had jobs in lots of different industries, and I'm sure that's very confusing when people read my resume.
Yeah. Yeah. So good for you for knowing what you want and like holding your boundaries, right? Like there are specific people that I want to work with and specific people I don't want to work with. It sounds like you're very clear on that. And it can be a little different when you're trying to transition within the same company, but if it's a massive organization and it sounds like it is,
Mhm.
it's still the same process.
Yeah.
Like you still have to apply and you still have to show that you have the right experience, but you get a wee bit of a boost up because you're already in the organization. So you get some priority.
Right, right. Yeah, because you get that internal posting ahead of external postings,
Yeah.
which is an
And you already,
advantage.
yeah, you already know the company, you already know the culture. So they're thinking like, well, we don't have to train that up. So you get a little bit of that leg up, but the process is still 100% the same.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Jen, did you say how many you're applying to a week? I'm sorry if I missed that.
I didn't say it's less than 10. I mean, it depends on the week. I'm working full time at the same time. So sometimes I have time to really look around and sometimes I don't. And as much as I don't have a North Star, probably, I definitely know what I don't want. So I can easily avoid those.
Start. Yeah, that's a great place to start is where what you don't want and like whittling it down from there. Dustin said 2. If you feel like typing in Dustin, like the why behind that, like, Sierra's was a little bit of, not so much being clear, but some other reasons, some time-bound reasons, some imposter syndrome, or are you just like really clear on what you want? And I'll check the chat back in a little bit. Okay. Okay, so we don't want you applying to 20 or more roles a week, Tara. We're going to talk about that. Also, your confidence grows because you know exactly how to identify the roles that are in alignment with your skills and your desires and what you enjoy and your background. And you're going to get a bigger ROI on your time investments because you're going to know how to identify the right roles to apply for. And instead of spending 10% of your effort on 20 or more roles per week, you're going to start putting 100% effort into just a few jobs per week that are perfectly aligned, that you can speak to, that your experience is aligned to, which means you're going to get more callbacks because that you're going to show yourself as the lifesaver and not just another like generic application in the background that's going to get passed in 3 seconds. So this is why I asked you to come with an ideal role. This is the very beginning of the journey, and it's absolutely necessary if you're going to get the most out of your time with me. And if you're uncertain, you know, Jen, it sounds like maybe you're like, I'm not really sure. You have a whole nother week between this time and next week to maybe get a little more whittle down a little bit more on maybe where you want to go from what makes sense in the nonprofit sector. What specifically in nonprofit?
So similar to, I think what Jessica was saying, I've done a lot. I worked at a physician membership organization where we did accreditation. So I have some healthcare background and but I also worked at a large philanthropy organization where I ran their board meetings. So I have, you know, board and governance experience, and I used to be a stage manager for opera companies. So I have, you know, I have some artistic but it's all taking a problem and running through to solve it. You know, what do I need? Who do I need? When do I need to get it done? So it's all project management. It's just, it can be a lot of different things.
Yeah. And that's stage management. Oh my gosh, that is, I mean, it's all applicable. And that like I see it. I see it because I know I'm like so deep into project management. I 100% understand how it is project management. It's being able to explain it to other people in a way that like that they see the connection clearly, so they don't have to work and think about like, oh, how is a production like a project, and how is a stage manager like a project manager? Like that takes some gymnastics. And I only know it because I'm so deep into project management, but many recruiters, they're just looking, they're like pattern matching. They don't really understand on a deeper level what a project manager does. So you have to draw those patterns for them. Okay. Doing good on time. Okay. So like I mentioned, I do know it is very hard to pick your ideal role, and it can be a very emotional and challenging process, especially if it's something that you were really, really tied to. I had another client once who he came from the music industry and he was so attached to it. He loved music. He described leaving it and how his experience in it, like being stabbed in the back. Like that's David, yeah, it's so hard, right? Like when you're doing something you love and it just like betrays you. It can be very hard. So this is something that I help with in my full end-to-end program, because sometimes you need someone who's been in project management for a really long time to help you figure that out and to be there for some of the more emotional aspects, someone who understands, someone who has been with this. So this is something I spend quite a bit of time actively helping my clients with. And also part of the work I do with my clients in my full program is not only picking out experiences that align with the job posting, but picking out projects that allow them to submit a PMP application. This is another part too. So as someone who's passed the PMP exam and I help other people create applications that don't get rejected, this is something that I am very, very well versed in. I help you define your North Star. And in the upcoming interactive workshop, the paid one on the 19th, we're going to focus just on the resume. Okay, not on the North Star. It's just going to be on the resume. So I want you guys to come out with as much value as you possibly can get. Step 2, lay out what you already have. When you don't tell a story around your existing experiences and what you already have, it could look like a few things. It could look like certification stacking, like we saw earlier. You're constantly getting new certifications because you just feel like you're not good enough. You can't lay out your experience on the table and see how it applies to what you're doing. So you just keep getting certifications. All right, CAPM, now PMP, now certified Scrum Master, now certified Agilist, this, that you're like getting all of these things. And that's not moving the needle for you because certifications are not the same thing as experience. And I guarantee every single person here has the experience. You just got to draw those connections. Or it's a little bit like what Sierra said, you keep playing small. You're not applying. You're scared to apply, or you under apply. You apply to jobs that you're overqualified for because you don't see it. You don't see how your experience fits into the roles that you're applying for. And because you don't see it, your brain is telling you you're not good enough. You don't have the experience. You can't do this. It's trying to protect you, which is like nice, but it also is really mean. Our brains are really mean to ourselves when they're trying to keep us out of the danger zone because it's what works. But when you craft your story in a compelling way, pull it all out, and you see how everything end to end fits together, you start to realize that you've already done a lot of the things the job description is asking for, and how what you've already done is relevant. And now you can connect those dots. When it comes to the resume writing process, this is probably the most overwhelming part of the process. Pulling out your experience, laying everything out on the table. David, yep, it's hard. You got to remember what you did, and you have to come up with like, our brains like to discount what we've done a lot in the past is like, that's not project management. That's totally not applicable to, like, it's not helpful here. Lay it out anyway. And your imposter syndrome flares when you do it because you start to lay out all your experience. And again, your brain is like, that's not project management. That's not, what are you doing? Stop. You're not a project manager. It's an emotional, it's a physically like a challenging thing to physically do. And it's a very emotional process as well. And you kind of have to like tell your brain to shut the heck up and just let you do what you're doing. Another thing I hear a lot is like, well, I didn't lead a team. This doesn't count because I didn't formally lead a team. And I will tell you that nothing happens in an organization in a vacuum. Nothing. So you were part of a team and you probably led people. Or people will be like, well, that project didn't finish. Like, we started working on this thing, but it didn't finish. So that doesn't count. Okay, so that is something we'll talk about later. But it's not a good reason to not put your experience down and to lay it all out on the table so that you have stuff to like pick from. Or maybe your achievements were not recognized, or you were actively, like, people actively were aggressive towards you or went after you when you did have achievements because you're at a very toxic company, or you were at a very toxic company with a terrible environment and a terrible culture, and it pulled you down. It drug you down with it. And as a result, now you think your experiences don't count. And that's just not true. Or you're worried that like your stories aren't good enough, or that they don't measure up to someone who's been out there as a project manager with like a decade of experience who is also not getting interview calls right now. So as someone who has spent hundreds of hours poring over project management job applications and writing project management resumes and helping aspiring PMs craft compelling stories, I know how to help people extract their experience and connect the dots to project management roles. in a way that speaks directly to what recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. And we go really, really deep in my full end-to-end program. I leverage my experience, my lived experience as a project manager in the field and having been in your shoes to ask the right questions and help you recognize what experience is relevant. And when it comes to the interactive workshop on October 19th, after we're done, you're going to have a set of stories that are the best representation of your experience for a project manager role. This will help you prepare for interviews too, honestly. Now, we're not going to talk about how to talk through your stories in an interview, but this is still going to prepare you. So you're going to get a ton of value out of this, even though you're just signing up for a resume workshop and not my full program, but it's still incredibly valuable. Look at it like this. Like, imagine having all of your stories written down for your entire career and not having to reinvent the wheel over and over again every time that you're applying to a job, not having to rewrite your entire resume. So even if you, let's say, even if you decide to apply for a different role 5 years down the road, most of the heavy lifting is done for you up to this point. And in fact, I'm teaching you how to do this on your own rather than having to hire a resume writer every single time you do this and need to move the needle, because that can get really expensive. So after the interactive workshop, you're going to realize that you already have the right luggage, the right supplies for your journey, and that you just need to pack it right. You just need to put it in that suitcase in the right way. All right. Step 3, chart the route to your role. So step 1 is knowing where you're going. And step 2 is laying out what you need for the journey. Let's say like you're laying out all your supplies, right? Like, I need those sunglasses. I need the hat. Or I don't need the kimono. Like, that's fine. We don't need that for Hawaii. That's not helpful. Those are the first 2 steps. Now you need to chart the route for how you're going to get there. This is where you map your experience directly to the language of the role that you want. You speak the language of the recruiter and the hiring manager. You draw those patterns for them so that they don't have to work. They see the patterns directly between what they're looking for and your resume, and you are the lifesaver. When you don't do this effectively, you end up just regurgitating a list of tasks and responsibilities. And this means you're just going to blend into the background with hundreds of other applicants who said delegated tasks, manage timelines, schedule meetings. Like, you just blend in with everybody else. And then you hear crickets or you get ghosted. But when you do this effectively, you create a narrative that is directly applicable to your North Star. And recruiters see exactly how you're the best person for the job. And as a result, the phone rings. So here's how to think about this. Job descriptions are your compass. They show the skills that your employer are looking for. And your experience, that's your supplies that you need to take with you along the journey. Your job is to use the supplies that you have in conjunction with that compass to create a clear map. Not just for you, but for the recruiters and the hiring managers, so they can see how your experience solves the problems that they are experiencing specifically. With the right map, you can go from, am I even qualified, to arriving at your final destination safe and sound. And as a certified career coach, I have been trained. I've been trained by the best career coaches, recruiters, and experts in HR. And I understand the psychology of how recruiters scan resumes and exactly what they're looking for. So in the full interactive workshop on the 19th, you're going to get a template, a beautifully optimized resume template that is optimized for recruiter eyeballs so that they can find your information quickly and decide within that given 7 seconds that they're going to give you the time and that you're the right person for the role. So you're going to learn the process of how to take your stories and translate them directly into that resume format. And for those of you that said formatting is an issue, this is going to be great because you will get that format just like laid out for you. Questions about charting the route? There'll be more time for questions at the end, and we're going to have plenty of time. So if you have them in a little bit, you can certainly ask them. Okay, so I keep telling you guys about this interactive workshop on the 19th that is free to my existing clients. And I'm just going to answer a few questions for you that you guys might have. What will I get out of the workshop? You're going to walk away with 3 things from this workshop. You're going to get a set of project management aligned stories that are going to show your transferable skills clearly so that recruiters don't have to guess. You're going to get that beautiful polished resume template and a framework to confidently tailor your resume going forward without needing to hire a resume writer or reinvent the wheel every single time. I have a visitor. This is my cat Ritz. She needs attention, so she's making a little bit of a yeah, she's very cute. Okay, so you're gonna get that. Those are the 2 things. And then the 3rd thing you're gonna get is a giant confidence boost because you're gonna understand exactly how your experience is applicable to the roles that you're applying for. Okay. Question number 2 you might have, is this workshop only for people who already have project management experience? Absolutely not. Many of, actually almost all of my clients come from non-traditional, non-PM backgrounds, whether that's operations or creative space or admin or education. And we still build resumes that open doors for them to project management roles. So you're going to learn how to translate what you've already done into project management language. Next question I get a lot, can I just use ChatGPT or YouTube to do this myself? And you absolutely could. And that's also kind of like trying to build IKEA furniture without the manual. Like, it's possible. You might have to redo it a couple times. You might, I don't know about you guys, but I've like cracked pieces of IKEA furniture because I'm trying to do it without the manual. And then that just like really sucks. So you're going to waste a lot of time and you're going to get conflicting information, honestly. You're going to get some misleading, conflicting information from people like Job Scanner. I almost said Job Scammer because it really is kind of like that. They're just trying to like get your money and it doesn't move the needle for you. So you're going to get conflicting information from people who have skin in the game. But what this workshop gives you, it gives you a structure, you get expert feedback from me, accountability, which is huge for a lot of people, and you're going to do it with a community. There's other people that are going to be in that room with you trying to do the same thing, and when they talk about their experience and their stories, that is going to inspire you. So you'll apply the information based on what you learn in that room that day, and you're going to come away with inspiration from other people. I'm not just going to have you consume the information. You're actually going to apply it. You might be wondering what is going to make this different from other resume classes out there. This one is very focused. Other classes out there are going to be really focused on like formatting or keyword tricks. We're going to talk a little bit about formatting, but this one is really focused on strategy, how to tell your stories in a way that shows impact and directly maps to project management roles, very specifically on project management. I don't know that I've seen other classes out there that do it on project management roles specifically. How do you know that it'll work for you? Honestly, you've been applying for roles and not hearing back. I'm assuming that's why you're here, and that's exactly why this exists. And this is what I teach my clients to help them land interviews. So you'll be guided through that step-by-step process to help identify and present your value very clearly. Will I get resume feedback on my own resume? Yes. After the workshop, you're going to get an exclusive one-on-one session with me, during which time I'm going to give you tailored feedback on your resume that you bring to me. Will there be a recording of this workshop if I can't attend the paid version on the 19th? No. It's only available for those who are ready to put in the work now rather than pushing it off until later, because I truly believe that when you invest in something and you do it now, you put in the work. If this is not something you're ready to invest in yet, that's okay. Today, the free webinar and the free additional next Sunday, like that's going to give you a very strong foundation. The workshop on the 19th is for those who are ready to implement now. So you stop spinning and start seeing results. Because I know that waiting does not make this process any easier. Taking action is what does it. And I could talk all day about how taking action helps with confidence and imposter syndrome, but that is out of scope for today's conversation. But it all starts with action. Okay, how much does it cost, and are there any discounts? So this workshop on the 19th is $500. It's free to my current clients. It's part of what you're already in. But if you are sitting here today, you get the opportunity for $100 off. And that discount is limited to the first 4 people who register, just as a thank you for joining early and committing to the process. And my QR code has disappeared. So I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare. I would like you guys to ask your questions. I'm sure you have questions. We have 30 minutes for questions. So we can answer questions, and we can also we can drop a little early as well. But I am gonna put the link to this page to sign up for the workshop in the chat. So if you guys want to sign up and use the code 100 off, see here, my questions are in the FAQs. Good. I tried really hard to be exhaustive with that. I'm going to try to present again. So for those of you who really like QR codes, ooh, there, now it's working. Yes. We love technology. QR code there for you guys. It is Sunday, October 19th, this exact same time, 2 to 4 Pacific, 5 to 7 Eastern. David, that QR code is going to prompt you to pay. So just tell me if you want to go and I'll sign you up for it. Yeah. Same for you, Jennifer. You'll just tell me if you want to go, because that's going to make you pay. And it's part of your guys' program. Questions, question about this workshop, questions about what we talked about today. Any questions? Did I just like so thoroughly? Yeah, okay.
I have a comment, if that's all right.
Comments, I love comments.
So, oh, sorry, that's my dog in the background. First of all, I highly recommend working with Kayla. I've been working with her, and it has been life-changing already. And I again apologize about the dog barking.
I don't hear it.
Okay, good. Some of you might be wondering why I'm on this resume workshop if I'm already working with her. And really that's just because we've already built a great resume, but I'm sort of defining more of a niche for myself. And so as I evolve in the process, I feel like I want to know how you, Kayla, approached it. And given what we've already done. And so we're just sort of fine tuning, and it's just giving me sort of the knowledge. Knowledge is power, right? So I feel like it just helps me figure out as I go forward, and as I change my resume and maybe my niche shifts, then I know how to do it. So that's why I'm here. I don't want anyone to think that it's because our work together hasn't been fruitful, because it it has and continues to be. But if you're having doubts, I had doubts in the beginning too, and I just want to let everybody know it is so worth it. So I just wanted to share that. And I wanted to know kind of in the next program, or in the next session, are we going to get into sort of kind of what the next session looks like? If you're able to kind of.
Yeah, let's talk
tell us
about what the
that.
next session is going to look like. I am going to go over this 4-quadrant approach that I've come up with, which David and Jennifer, you've already picked your niche. And it's something it's an approach I did not have when I started working with you, David and Jennifer. So you might find it helpful as well. And that's just something that for people here who might still be a little bit like, not really sure, we'll go over that. Then I'm going to show you guys exactly the process of looking at that job, extracting out what is important and what is not, laying out your own experience in a way that is like organized and structured and like is going to make the end process way easier. And then I'll show you how to take what you laid out and directly map it to what the job description is asking for. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to take that and plop it into the pretty resume template that you're going to get. So this is going to teach you how to do it over and over and over again. I'm going to give you that process. The paid workshop on the 19th is going to be interactive, very interactive. It's going to be 2 hours. And honestly, I might even make it a little bit longer because I really want you guys to get value out of this. I want you to create your stories. I want you to draw clear lines between what you have done and what you're looking for, because that is just such a big gap and it's such an important part. It's huge for confidence. Like, Sierra, if you're not seeing it right now, we're going to help you see it so that you're not like holding yourself back. I'm really hearing that you're holding yourself back. And that can be frustrating when you know you need to find a job to make money. So we're going to get into that very deeply. And then by the end of that, my hope for you guys, well, what you are going to get is the ability to finish the resume in a template. It's not going to be done by the end of the workshop, but you're going to understand how to do it. So we'll do at least one job together, I'm hoping. And then you can complete it and you can come to me ready for feedback. We'll have a one-on-one feedback session. Cool. Other questions? Anybody? Comments? Feedback on how this session went? I love learning. I ask all of my clients in the end. We do a little bit of a retrospective. Any feedback for me? I take it very well. I love constructive feedback.
Well, I'm just going to echo David with what he said. Exactly. It's been wonderful working with you. It's been a very positive experience. I first had heard about you on the PM Happy Hour, if anybody has ever tuned into that podcast. And I was so happy I heard it. And I am attending as well with David. I think it's just more information and it just drills it in, keeps me every little bit of contact to make sure I'm refining that resume. And I do have a good resume, and Kayla helped me out wonderfully. But again, as the more you know and the more you're involved, the more you find you can start really digging out those stories. I had stories. She helped me identify them. So then I started applying, and the more that I felt confident, I did get some interviews. You start just further drilling down. So why I'm here, just more information, and it's been a fabulous program.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really, really appreciate that. And I love working with people like David and Jennifer because they show up, like, even to these extra things outside of the program, they show up, they put in the hard work, and like those are the people that I know are going to be successful and I know are going to land because they're going to work the process and they're going to stick with it, and that's what works. So thank you. You two are very kind. Any other questions? Like, we have time. Now is the time to get them out there. I don't want you guys like hanging up and then being like, oh shoot, I could have asked questions and I didn't. And if you have a question and you're not sure, like if it's going to sound silly or if it makes sense or it's going to make you look bad, please ask, because there's somebody else here who is going to benefit from that. I promise you. And when you're a project manager, you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you that. Jen, yes.
Well, I was just thinking, this has been really insightful, especially, like we've talked about, I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. I'm trying to pivot to an entirely different area, and I don't know what all those, I don't even know necessarily what all the options are within all the industries, right? I mean, there's like CPG, supply chain management. There's, like, oh, I could be in healthcare, I could be in pharmaceutical. But I have had some great luck with things like PM happy hour. Even that's also how I find Kayla. And are there other resources like that that you can think of? Because I'm thinking about like if I can use ChatGPT to kind of try to suss out a little bit more about what are the problems I like solving and where would that be applicable. But it's a crapshoot. I mean, we all know ChatGPT is kind of going to make it up. So are there groups on LinkedIn that you recommend, or other podcasts or books or anything like that, YouTube channels that just speak that language and kind of where I could hear a little bit more about that industry PMP roles and experiences?
Yeah, that's a very good question. PM happy hour is great. Plug for PM happy hour, project management happy hour. If anybody here hasn't listened to that podcast, it is freaking amazing. And I listened to it.
And to get to those points, get to those continuing
Yes.
education.
Yes. Any PMPs here, I believe I actually don't know exactly how it works, but they do qualify for PDUs. Kate and Kim are amazing and they're so knowledgeable and they're so kind. I listened to that podcast for years before I actually was a guest, and it made a difference in my career. I will say, like, I listened to it from the very beginning going forward. And it's amazing. So plug for them. They also have a community. So that, I don't hear a lot of people talking about niches, but I will tell you, if you go on YouTube and type in day in the life of a project manager, you're going to get some. I know there's some on there for like SaaS or day in the life of a project manager at Facebook, which is not necessarily what everybody here is looking for. I actually recorded a video on day in the life of a legal project manager. I just haven't edited it and put it together yet because I am a team of one. But I'm planning on doing it because I want people to see and know and understand what that is. So YouTube is good. I also really highly recommend Ricardo Vargas, Vargas, I believe that's him, on YouTube. Not for the niche stuff, but the way he explains project management, and like he loves it. You can tell the way that he talks about it. He's so into it and just so like just truly like lit up about it that it's like still dry. I'm not gonna lie, because project management in and of itself is dry when you're trying to learn about it, but his stuff is really good. And he has some interactive stuff as well, where you can like download files and like do things with his videos. So that is really, really good. I wish I had a better answer on the industry stuff. Let me think about that, Jen. If I think about anything else, then I will DM you on LinkedIn.
I was just going to second that
Thanks.
with Ricardo. His enthusiasm is infectious, I would say. And I like
Ellie
to nerd
Mays
out with him.
almost.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. So I second that.
Yeah, he's great. I used
Yeah.
him. Oh, sure.
I
Go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, I watched some of his videos before my PMP to, and they're totally great.
Yeah.
So I
Did
should
you
revisit.
use the one where like, so I took the PMP when it was still the 6th version, because we're on 7 now. And it was really heavy on process and like ITTOs. And he has this one video where he walks through the entire process of like end to end and how all the ITTOs flow. And I had this big piece of butcher paper and I had like printed out all of his like there was like little squares that were all the ITTOs and I'd cut them out and was pasting them on this butcher paper and drawing lines like if you guys have seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's like drawing lines to everything looking insane. I was just like that, but the video was so good and it was so helpful. Anything else? Any other questions? Don't leave with your
Um,
questions unanswered.
I do have a question. As a 20-year-old college student just starting out with very minimal experience in like the project management space, what's a good place to start? Because I kind of just jumped the gun and just immediately started looking at project management positions, and then I realized I need somewhere to start. So what's a good place to start in terms of looking for a job that aligns with the project management career?
Yeah. What drew you to project management, Sierra? How did you land there?
So I've been working with my mentor since high school, helping her plan um a women's summit. So she has a nonprofit, the International Council for Women in Law Enforcement, and every March she does like a women's summit for people in law enforcement. And to help with community service hours for graduation, I worked with her in helping to plan and manage the event. And that's when I realized like this is something that I enjoy doing, helping manage this project and event. So I started off looking at event planning, and then I realized like there wasn't much growth in that market, which led me to project management.
Mhm. Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I'm going to tell you to do is not to discount that experience that you just had. That is project management experience, and that must go on your resume. That counts.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been doing that?
I have it on my resume as volunteer work.
No, we're going to put that on your resume as an actual position.
Okay.
Because it is, you're just not getting paid for it. And when you're a
Mm-hmm.
new grad, this is a perfectly viable strategy to use because you don't have work experience, right? Like you said, you
Mm-hmm.
have a part-time. What's your part-time?
I'm a project program assistant for Arizona State University, local our satellite campus in Washington, D.C.
Right. I guarantee there is project management applicable experience in that as well. So we have at least two positions. So where
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start, Sierra, is you're going to pick a little more specific. I hear you saying that event planning doesn't have a lot of career growth, and I'm not going to disagree with that. I think there's a lot of validity to that, and it is unfortunate. Um, I also think that it could it could potentially lead to growth and get you in this space where if you get more of this project management experience through events, you could then transition to a different industry. This is all about sometimes we need lily pads, or I call them bridge jobs. Um, this concept of jumps. Every jump that you make is, so for example, a jump, industry change, title change, company change, location change. Um, there's more. There are a lot more changes. These are all jumps. And as you add these jumps together, sometimes you can end up with this gigantic chasm that you can never cross because it's like maybe you're Evil Knievel and you can get on that motorcycle and like rev it up and jump and like good for you, but there are very few
Mm-hmm.
Evil Knievels in this world. The rest of us, we need to create a bridge or maybe a couple bridges to get between that giant chasm. And this is also part of the strategy. So for you, Sierra, maybe your first jump is into the event space because you have very applicable experience. And then once you get that and if you go through my workshop and you learn how to translate your experience into project management specific language, then maybe you can jump to another industry. So it's not always a fully straight line, especially as a new grad. And I will tell
Mhm.
you, I went to school, I got my bachelor's in Latin and ancient history. And then I went to culinary school and was a cake decorator. And now I'm a project manager at a law firm. Like this stuff is
Yeah.
it's not a straight line. Um, and yeah, sometimes there's some jumps and some turns. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Anyone else? All right. This has been a joy, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Jennifer and David, for going the extra mile and coming to this and investing even more in your career in terms of time. And next week, same time is when we're gonna get into the next bit of this. So thank you so much, guys, and I will see you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.